My name is Becky Williams. I'm 31 years old. And 6 months ago, I received a text message that didn't just end my relationship, it exposed everything I'd been quietly ignoring. Hey, just a heads up. I told everyone we're on a break. I need some space to think. I was 200 miles away at a mandatory work conference when it came through. I stared at the screen longer than I'd like to admit, rereading it again and again like the words might rearrange themselves into something that made sense. They didn't. Because breaks don't get announced, they get discussed. But let me rewind a little. I'm a senior systems engineer at a mid-sized tech firm in Austin. I've spent the better part of 8 years building a life that looks boring from the outside and feels incredibly safe from the inside. 6 figures with bonuses, a paid-off Tacoma, a downtown condo I bought cheap as a foreclosure and rebuilt with my own hands. Stability wasn't an accident, it was survival. I grew up watching my parents make one bad financial decision after another. Leased cars they couldn't afford. Credit cards used like free money. A house bought at the peak of the market. When my dad filed for bankruptcy while I was still in high school, I learned a lesson that stuck. Wealth isn't about appearances. It's about control. So I built my life with intention. My days followed a rhythm. Gym at 6, work by 8, home by 5. Meal prep on Sundays. Hiking on weekends. Predictable? Maybe, but peaceful. For a long time, that peace included Ethan. We met at a mutual friend's rooftop birthday party downtown. He had an easy smile, quick wit, and a way of making everyone feel like they were the most interesting person in the room. He worked in sales, bounced between ideas, talked big. He said I was refreshingly put together. The first year was effortless. We lived separately, split nothing, owed nothing. Modern, independent, functional. Exactly how relationships are supposed to work. When his lease ended, moving in together felt practical. He was paying nearly $2,000 for a 1-bedroom smaller than my living room. I owned my place outright. Mortgage, HOA, insurance, all in my name. I agreed on one condition. Finances stayed separate. He'd pay me $12,200 in rent and half the utilities. Everything stayed in my name. He agreed immediately. Said it was fair. Said he appreciated how clear I was. Looking back, that should have been my first pause. Because not long after he moved in, things started shifting. Not loudly, quietly. He joked that my routines were a little intense. Said I lived like I was scheduling my own life audit. When I meal prepped on Sundays, he'd roll his eyes and ask why I couldn't just order food like a normal person. But whenever I suggested spontaneous trips or trying something new, he was suddenly busy or too tired. The criticism was constant. The effort wasn't. His friends started coming around more often, especially Madeline. She lived 2 doors down. Unit 3C, Ethan's ex-girlfriend. They'd dated before me, ended things amicably, and somehow stayed very present in each other's lives. She laughed a little too loudly, knew his schedule a little too well, mentioned inside jokes he'd never explained to me. My gut noticed long before my brain wanted to. Then there were the small changes. His phone stopped being left on the counter. Notifications went silent. Screens turned face down. New clothes started appearing. Extra effort on days he claimed were just meetings. When I asked, he accused me of being paranoid. "You're allowed to have privacy," he snapped once, like that settled everything. 4 months before everything fell apart, he started complaining about my gym routine. "You're always gone in the mornings," he said one night while scrolling through his phone in bed. Never mind that I was back before 7:30. Never mind that he didn't wake up until 8:30. Then came the conference. 4 days in Seattle. Mandatory attendance, company paid, career important. Ethan helped me pack the night before, folded my shirts, kissed me goodbye, told me to learn lots. Everything looked normal. The first day was non-stop panels and workshops. The second night, I got back to my hotel room after networking and collapsed onto the bed, still wearing my badge, checked my phone. That's when his text came through. "Hey, just a heads up. I told everyone we're on a break. I need space to figure things out. Don't freak out." I read it 3 times. A break? We hadn't fought. We hadn't even argued. I called him immediately. Voicemail after 1 ring. Texted back. "Can we talk about this?" Read. No reply. That's when something inside me went very, very quiet. Because people don't ask for space like that unless they've already made room for someone else. I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I opened my laptop and started documenting. The quiet didn't feel calm. It felt calculated. I lay there in my hotel room staring at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the air conditioner while my mind ran through the facts like a checklist. Ethan hadn't asked for a break. He'd announced one. He hadn't discussed it. He'd informed me, after telling everyone else first. And he'd done it while I was across the country, stuck in a professional obligation I couldn't walk away from without consequences. That wasn't confusion. That was strategy. I called him again, straight to voicemail. I typed out a dozen messages, questions, accusations, pleas, and deleted every single one. Emotional reactions were exactly what people like Ethan relied on. Chaos created cover. So instead, I did what I'd trained myself to do my entire adult life. I switched into problem-solving mode. If he wanted space, I'd give it to him. But I wasn't going to be blind. The first thing I checked was our shared calendar. Nothing unusual, no sudden girls' nights, no mysterious appointments. Social media was equally boring. Normal posts, food pictures, gym selfies, nothing about a break. Then I remembered something that made my stomach drop. The Ring doorbell. We'd installed it 6 months earlier after a break-in on our floor. I'd set it up under my account, paid for the subscription, full access from my phone. My thumb hovered over the app for a moment before I opened it. Part of me hoped I'd find nothing, that I'd feel stupid for doubting him. I didn't. The footage was time-stamped and motion-activated, easy to skim. Monday. Ethan left for work at 8:45. Came home alone at 6:10. Normal. Tuesday. He left at the usual time, came back at 12:30 p.m. with Madeline. They were laughing as they walked down the hallway. She leaned into him when she unlocked the door. The camera caught them disappearing inside. The door didn't open again until 11:47 that night. I watched it twice. Then a third time. Wednesday, the day of the text. Same pattern. Left in the morning. Came back early afternoon. Madeline beside him, her hand on his arm. His head tilted toward hers, like they were sharing secrets. The break text came through while they were still inside my condo. I sat there on that hotel bed, phone in my hand, watching my boyfriend cheat on me in full HD with timestamps. No deniability, no confusion. Just facts. The nausea came later, the shaking after that. But in the moment, something colder took over. The break wasn't about him needing space, it was about him needing permission, retroactively. I downloaded every clip, saved them to my phone, uploaded them to my personal cloud storage, emailed copies to myself, labeled folders by date and time. Whatever happened next, I wasn't walking into it unprepared. I could have confronted him right then, screamed, accused, demanded explanations. But confrontation gives people like Ethan room to lie, to gaslight, to flip the narrative until you're apologizing for reacting. So I didn't. The rest of the conference passed in a haze. I showed up, took notes, asked questions, networked, smiled when required. Inside, I was building an exit strategy. By the time my flight landed back in Austin on Friday afternoon, I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused. The Uber dropped me off around 7 p.m. Lights were on in my unit. I could hear laughter through the door. I unlocked it and walked in like it was any other night. They were on the couch, not touching, sitting just close enough to insult my intelligence. Madeline jumped first. Ethan followed a second later. "Oh, hey," Ethan said, scrambling to stand. "I was just, Madeline was keeping me company while you were gone." I didn't answer. The silence stretched, thick, uncomfortable. Madeline grabbed her jacket. "I should go," she said quickly. "Early morning." She didn't look at me as she left. Ethan stayed frozen on the couch, watching my face like he was waiting for a storm. I walked past him into the kitchen, opened the fridge, found leftovers, and put them in the microwave. "We need to talk," he finally said. "About what?" I asked, grabbing a fork. "About us, about the break." The microwave beeped. I sat at the counter and started eating. "Did you get my text?" he pressed. "Yeah," I said calmly. "You said you needed space. I'm respecting that." His confusion was almost comical. "That's it? You're not upset?" "You made a public decision without me. What exactly am I supposed to argue?" He frowned. "I just needed time to think." "And?" I asked. "Have you figured it out?" "I don't know yet." I nodded, finished my food, walked into the bedroom. Over the next hour, I packed a duffel bag. Clothes, laptop, documents, essentials, methodical, quiet. Ethan appeared in the doorway, panic creeping into his voice. "What are you doing?" "Giving you space." "I didn't mean you should leave." "It's my place," I reminded him softly. "But you asked for room to think. I'm making it easy." That wasn't the plan he'd made. I could see it in his eyes. As I zipped the bag and walked out, he followed me to the door. "This isn't what I wanted," he said, voice rising. I know, I replied. That's why I'm doing it. I closed the door behind me. Phase 1 was complete. By the time I checked into the extended stay hotel near my office, it was almost 10 p.m. Room 237, neutral walls, clean sheets, no memories. Perfect. I dropped my bag, sat on the edge of the bed, and let myself breathe for exactly 1 minute, not to cry, just to reset. Then I pulled out my phone and made the first call of Phase 2. My lawyer. Yes, I know how that sounds, but when you own property and someone else lives in it, emotions don't protect you. Laws do. I left a voicemail. Hey, Tom, it's Becky Williams. I need a consultation about a tenant situation. Call me when you can. He called back Saturday morning. I laid everything out calmly. Boyfriend, paying rent, no lease, relationship over. I needed to know my options. Tom didn't hesitate. Good news, he said. You did everything right up front. He's legally a month-to-month tenant. And the bad news? You can't just kick him out. Texas requires 30 days written notice. I nodded, already expecting that. Written, dated, delivered properly. Certified mail is best. Email copy too. Document everything. We scheduled an appointment for Monday to draft the notice. Call 1 complete. Next came documentation. I created a folder on my laptop labeled Eviction, Williams Condo, and started filling it. Rental agreement, scanned. Ring footage, downloaded. Text messages, screenshot. Payment history, spreadsheet. That's when I noticed something interesting. Ethan had been late on rent 4 times in the past 6 months. I'd brushed it off back then. Relationship grace, bad month. I'll get you next week. Now it was a pattern. Patterns matter in court. Saturday afternoon, while Ethan was out, I tracked his car through the garage logs. I returned to the condo. I didn't confront him. I documented. I photographed everything, every room, every surface, every piece of furniture, time-stamped, dated, clean record of the unit's condition. Most of the place was mine. Couch, bed, TV, kitchen table, desk, all purchased before he moved in. When I opened his nightstand drawer, I almost missed it. A cheap burner phone, cracked screen, no case. I turned it on. Messages loaded immediately. Madeline, 4 months worth. Hundreds of texts about my schedule, about when I was at the gym, when I was traveling. Complaints about me being predictable, about how I lived like a spreadsheet. One message from 3 weeks earlier made my jaw tighten. She's so routine, it's creepy. Gym, work, sleep. You make me feel alive again. I photographed everything, backed it up, put the phone back exactly where I found it. I didn't need revenge. I needed proof. Monday morning, I met Tom in his office. We drafted the notice together. Formal, clean, professional. This letter serves as 30/30, days notice that your tenancy at address will terminate on April 15th, 2024. All rent and utilities must remain current through your final day of residency. No emotion, no explanation, just law. I sent it that afternoon. Certified mail to Ethan's office, email to his personal and work accounts. Read receipts on. The reaction came fast. My phone started ringing around 4 p.m. Ethan, blocked. New number, blocked. Text messages flooding in. You can't do this. This is illegal. Everyone at my office saw the letter. Call me right now. I didn't respond. At 7 p.m., the hotel front desk called. There's a man here asking for your room number. I don't want to see him, I said calmly. This is a domestic separation. Understood. I watched from my window as Ethan argued with the clerk, pacing, gesturing, voice raised. Eventually, he left. A text came through minutes later. Fine. If you won't talk like an adult, I'll get a lawyer. Screenshot. Saved. Tuesday brought the flying monkeys. Mutual friends texting. His sister calling. One message from a friend saying, he says you're throwing him out with no warning. I didn't correct them. If Ethan wanted to lie, that was his choice. Wednesday, I received an email from an attorney. The language was sloppy. The claims wrong. Threatening tone. No letterhead. I forwarded it to Tom. He called me laughing. This is impressively bad, he said. Want me to respond? Please. Tom sent a single email back, citing tenant law, attaching the notice, outlining Ethan's month-to-month status. That ended the lawyer threats. Then Ethan stopped paying rent. March 1st passed with nothing. I sent one email noting non-payment and late fees. He replied, I'm not paying rent to someone who's kicking me out. I forwarded it to Tom. That helps, he said. A lot. Week 3 was when Ethan tried manipulation. Then guilt. Then anger. Each message quieter than the last. Because control was slipping. And he knew it. By week 3, the story Ethan was telling himself started falling apart. And when that happened, he tried telling it louder. He went quiet for a few days after the rent refusal backfired. No calls, no texts. I almost thought he'd finally accepted reality. Then the social media posts started. Sad photos, carefully angled selfies, captions vague enough to invite sympathy without admitting guilt. Sometimes the people you trust most show you who they really are. Healing from emotional abuse takes time. The comments poured in. You deserve better. Stay strong. Some people can't handle strong women. I didn't respond. I didn't post. I didn't defend myself. Silence is unsettling to people who rely on reactions. Midweek, building management called me. Your tenant requested access for someone named Madeline to help him pack. Do you authorize that? No, I said immediately. She's not allowed in my unit. Understood. Less than an hour later, Ethan texted. Seriously? You won't even let someone help me? I replied once. Madeline is not authorized in my property. You can hire professional movers. She's just a friend. Then she can wait at the curb. That was the moment the tone changed. The apologies came next. Long paragraphs, emotional language, regret carefully framed without accountability. I was confused. I panicked. I didn't want to lose you. Translation was simple. Whatever he thought he had with Madeline wasn't working out. Reality had shown up. Market rate rent, no backup plan, and consequences he couldn't charm his way out of. When apologies didn't work, guilt followed. I don't have anywhere to go. You're basically making me homeless. I didn't respond. He had 30 days. He'd known since day one. Then came anger. Enjoy your sterile condo and boring routines. You'll never find someone who puts up with you like I did. That one actually made me smile. April 15th arrived quietly. I'd prepaid a storage unit in Ethan's name for 1 month and scheduled professional movers. Clean, documented, no drama. At 9 a.m., the movers arrived with building management present as witnesses. Ethan wasn't there. 3 hours later, everything that belonged to him was boxed and stored. I texted him once. Your belongings are in storage at address. Unit 247. Keys are at the front desk. No reply. That afternoon, I changed the locks. New deadbolt, new mailbox key. $300. Worth every cent. That night, I walked through the condo alone. No tension, no waiting for reactions, no footsteps that didn't belong to me. Just space. Stop! Part 5. I moved back in the next morning. The condo felt different. Lighter, quieter, finally mine again in a way it hadn't been for over a year. I cleaned everything, washed the sheets, scrubbed the bathroom, opened the windows, and let fresh air replace old memories. By midnight, there was no trace of Ethan left. The aftermath was predictable. Texts from new numbers, emails asking for closure. One last attempt from a friend telling me I was being harsh. I didn't respond. I blocked, filtered, deleted. And then, life got better. Work improved almost immediately without the constant background stress. I finished a major project early and earned a bonus. Started looking at buying a small house outside the city. My gym routine intensified. Added rock climbing twice a week. Met people who challenged themselves instead of criticizing discipline. I picked up woodworking. Built furniture with my own hands. Filled my condo with pieces that had purpose and weight. I took a solo trip to Colorado. Drove mountain roads with no itinerary. Hiked until my legs burned. Came back feeling clearer than I had in years. 3 months later, I ran into someone from our old social circle. Becky, she said gently, for what it's worth, I'm sorry. We didn't know the full story at first. I smiled. It's okay, I'm good. And I was. I started dating again around month 4. Nothing rushed, no chaos, honest conversations, mutual respect. Around month 5, I met someone new through the climbing gym. Calm, grounded, owned his own place. No games. Different, better. The condo eventually got new tenants. A young professional couple. Proper lease. Market rate rent. On time every month. That's when the numbers really hit me. I'd been charging Ethan $12,200 when I could have gotten $1,600. Nearly $5,000 lost in a year. Add groceries, trips, covering gaps when he was short, and the total crossed $20,000. An expensive lesson. Still cheaper than marriage. The final closure came unexpectedly one morning at a coffee shop. Ethan stood in line ahead of me. He looked tired, smaller, less confident. He turned, recognized me, swallowed. Becky, I just wanted to say, ancient history, I said calmly. And I meant it. I walked out with my coffee and felt absolutely nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no need for revenge. Just peace. And that's how the story ends. Not with shouting.